but lays that against the number of years that he's actually been alive. And if you can harness those two qualities, the childlike purity of perception combined with the years of experience, I think that's how he did it, and I've seen it with others. Crikey Moses, I've worked in that world so much in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
That constant questing for something new,
mm-hmm.
that a child has as it grows up, but with all the experience that he's had, you combine the two, I think that's where you get this kind of mega takeoff point.
And 2001 was definitely, it's obvious. It was absolutely something new. It changed the art form in a way. It raised it to a higher level. Did you sense that you were working on something that could have that enormous impact, that was so revolutionary?
The answer to the question is no, because at the time it isn't relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just before I'd done the James Bond movie, which was the fourth in the series, Thunderball, right, the first one I'd done, I knew it was going to be a hit, but I wasn't concerning myself with, was it genre-changing? No, it wasn't. There had been three before it.
Mm-hmm.
2001, who knows? You've got Arthur C. Clarke, who I was familiar with. As I told you, I'd read books of his back when I was still at school. Stanley, he had a body of work, but it was a very individual process, 2001, and Stanley was, he really had arrived at a point where he could actually tell the studio, I'm going to do it my way, and I don't care how much it costs. And he's the only person I've ever worked with where that was true. And the time it came to pass was on 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley's had this reputation ever since of going way over schedule and budget, which he does, and then did do. Drove me nuts on The Shining because I was on The Empire Strikes Back I needed the stages, and he was going on and on and on. But on 2001, we set off on that movie, and we began shooting, as I'll say, the day after the Christmas holiday, and we rammed on through, and everything went absolutely perfectly. We were bang on schedule through a series of sets. And then we arrived on the centrifuge set that we had on stage 3 at the old MGM studio. It was the biggest sound stage in Europe at that time. That's all long gone now, but there we built this centrifuge, which was highly complex, and I'm sure you've had a million people on here who technically know more about it than I, except that nobody had ever attempted anything like it in the history of movies. It's a piece of hardware. This thing actually went round, and it had slip rings with all the electrics, everything that was fed into it had to go through slip rings because you couldn't have cable. And it was the most amazing piece of engineering. It went right to the roof of the stage. And we had to have a way where we could slot the camera in and nobody could look through the camera because it was the guys, Keir Dullea, Gary Lockwood, are running around like a couple of hamsters in a wheel.
Right.
And the camera's through a slot. And it was the first time ever, well, certainly in my experience, that we had a video interlock with it. And it was strapped to the side of the television camera, so there were obviously parallax problems. And outside, we could sit and watch on this really bad black and white screen. We had no means of recording it. You watched it, and that was it. And it was an amazing advance. I'd never seen it. Nowadays, every movie you make, there's video assist.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the first. It was a breakthrough. And everything Stanley did was, right on the cutting edge technologically, because there are a lot of technological things on 2001. For example, the entire movie was original negative. There wasn't a single dupe for the optical process that existed at the time in that film. And I could go on endlessly about that, but I don't know how long you want this to run, JB. So, I mean, it was technical breakthrough. It was done in a way that nobody's ever attempted to do a movie like that before. The first camera day to the last camera day was 2 years and 3 months, and I'm talking about filming. I'm not talking about pre-production and post-production. But everything that he did was absolutely, perfect.